Yes, Harvey, you have a question before we start?
Excuse me.
Yes.
Why is the Minecraft server not working?
Sorry?
Like, why can't I join the Minecraft server?
Oh, yes, I had to take it offline for a few days because I have to do maintenance.
What do you mean maintenance?
So I have to fix some things. There's something wrong with it.
Is it good already?
Not yet.
What
Please
was
give it a
wrong
few
with
days.
it? What was wrong with it?
It was just not running as well.
That's okay.
All
Oh,
right.
and did you get the thing that I sent it to you? The letter.
Yes. I did. All right, let me share my screen. Let me share my screen and we can get started. All right. Can everybody see the screen I just shared?
Yes.
Can I get a thumbs up?
Yes.
All right, perfect.
Wait, this looks like China. This looks like China. Wait.
Yeah.
No, it's
All
not.
right.
It's a Mongolian.
So for today's class, we're going to be talking about one specific person and his country or his empire. This person is called Genghis Khan, and he controls the empire called the Mongolians or the Mongol Empire. All right, so we'll get started right away. The first question we have, because we're talking about this really famous person in history, is the question, who is Genghis Khan? What is so special about him? Does anybody want? Yes, Jasper, would anybody like to give me some information that they know beforehand?
He is a great Mongolian conqueror.
Great. Yes. So he was a conqueror. So he liked to conquer land and other resources for himself. So he liked to fight a lot. And as Jasper also said, he is Mongolian, which means he's part of a group called the Mongols. All right. Would anybody else have anything about Genghis Khan that they would like to share? Nope. Oh, Harvey, would you like to share something?
No, this is a question.
Sure, go for it.
What if he conquers things? What does he like to conquer, and what does he use to conquer those things?
Great question. So I will answer your question pretty simply right now, and we can get into detail later. So Genghis Khan really liked to conquer a lot of land and a lot of resources like gold, food, anything that you can take, he will take it from you because he wants to expand his empire. He wants to be as powerful as he possibly can back in those days. All right. So we're going to get into some details about more of his life. So who is Genghis Khan? Well, as I said, he was a Mongolian ruler that was born in the 10th century. The 12th century in 1162. And he died 65 years later in 1227. So he lived a total of 65 years, which, although that doesn't sound like a really long life in our current days, but you have to remember, there was almost 1,000 years ago. And at that time, living for 65 years is really, really impressive. So, about Genghis Khan, we know that he was born in 1162, but his real birth name, so the name that his parents gave him, was not actually Genghis Khan. His birth name was called Temujin. So this name was the birth name, so the name given by his parents, and this name is in Mongolian.
Can you say it again? And what does the name mean?
Temujin. So it means of iron. So made of iron in Mongolian.
I didn't hear.
Temujin.
Temujin?
Yes, that's correct. So it's Mongolian and it means of iron. So basically he means that he has to be strong, tough, like iron, because he was part of the royal family of one of the tribes of Mongolia. So although we know Kangaskhan as the greatest warrior to basically ever live, he didn't really have a good childhood or a really good early life. Unfortunately, his father died when he was only 9 years old, being poisoned by other tribe members because he was part of the royal family and everybody wanted his father's position. And his father, because his father had a lot of power back then. And because his father was poisoned, he was also captured because his family lost the power they had. So he was thrown in prison when only in the age of around 9 to 10. But fortunately, he escaped and was able to take back the power in his teenage years. So in
Wow.
in 1206, he was able to unify Mongolia to become one large empire under his rule. Before Genghis Khan, the Mongolian Empire was split into very small separate tribes. So tribes are just small communities or groups of people that live together that have one ruler. And there was a lot of these small communities within Mongolia. So they weren't unified. There weren't one large community back then. What Genghis Khan did was that he unified them all, and all of them were under his rule. So, as we said, his birth name is Temujin. So how did he get the name of Genghis Khan? Well, in Mongolian, the emperor of Mongolia was called Chinggis-Khan. So Chinggis Khan, which just means emperor in the Mongolian language. So later in life, because he became the emperor, he adopted the name. So he took the name Genghis Khan, and then nowadays people call him, or when we recall him, we say Genghis Khan. That is where the name comes from. All right. Any questions about all of that?
What
Yes,
does Genghis Khan mean?
Great question. So as I said, Genghis Khan is kind of the English spelling and English pronunciation of his actual name, which is Genghis Khan, which is Mongolian. Genghis Khan just means emperor. So Genghis Khan is kind of the English way of saying Genghis Khan. And so basically they mean the same thing. So Genghis Khan in this case also means the emperor. Does anybody else have a question?
What about his mother?
Yes. Okay, great question. So what about his mother? Well, unfortunately, back then, women or girls don't have a lot of power. So they weren't really a really strong power in their family. They didn't really have a big say in their family. And so when his father died, because his mother is the only parent left in his family, and because she was a female, she wasn't allowed to rule their tribe anymore. So they got kicked out of the community and thrown away into a desolate land somewhere to live by themselves. So fortunately, when Genghis Khan's father got murdered, his mother was still alive. So Genghis Khan still had a parent to look after him. All right, with all of the questions, let's move on. So we saw in the title was two parts. We're going to talk about Genghis Khan, but we're also going to talk about the Mongols. So let's dive into the Mongols. So who were and who are the Mongols? Does anybody know anything about Mongols? Nope.
Can you repeat your question?
Yeah, sure. So who are the Mongols and what is special about them? Or what do you know about the Mongols?
The Mongols are different tribes living in northern China.
That's correct. Great job. So the Mongols, they were tribes of people living above China, as you see here. This part is basically China back, well, current day, but we can kind of see that was also China. That there was roughly the shape of China back then too, around 1,000 years ago. So who were the Mongolians or the Mongols? Well, they were the people that lived in tribes right above, so the north in the north of China, and they lived in tribes. So they were tribal. They didn't have a stable place to live. They always moved around depending on where their herds are because they lived off farming and domesticating sheep and cows to live. So they're also what we call nomads, which just means groups of people that do not have a permanent or stable home and they have to move wherever there is grass because their livestock, so their cows, their sheep, their pigs, need this grass to live. That's why they have to follow wherever these livestock go. And as I said, the Mongols are small tribes or small communities of different people. So they weren't really one country. And that's what Genghis Khan was really famous for too.
What?
Genghis Khan was the first person or the first emperor to be able to unite all of these tribes and nomads together to form the current country we know now as Mongolia. All right. Any questions about Mongols and Mongolia? Yes, Harvey?
What does the picture mean? Like the like this picture.
Yes. Okay, yeah. So this picture was just one of the drawings back then of the Mongols. So this is basically back then, they didn't have cameras, they didn't have technology. So what can they do? Well, if they want to record down something that is really important or something of value, they'll write it down and maybe paint a picture to tell the
Okay.
people coming behind them what
But
is happening.
But what is that saying?
Yeah, so this is an artistic depiction of the Mongol conquering. So that is probably land that they're supposed to take over. That's why you see they congregating on there. And you can see the
That
words
doesn't-
around them. Yeah, of course, because it's a artistic, what we call rendition. So it's a take. It doesn't have to be realistic because back then, of course, it's going to be hard to draw mountains. If people can kind of more or less understand what is there, that would really work.
Okay.
Yep. So yeah, so the picture doesn't have really any really special meaning, but if you really want to go into it, you can search Google and maybe some researchers or scientists can give you more specific answers on that because I am not really sure what is in that painting word for word. All right. Camille, I see you have a question.
Um, was Mongolia bigger or smaller like before, or was it the same size?
Great question. So but later on, we're going to learn about how the Mongols conquered different countries. As I said, that's what Genghis Khan was really famous for. He was able to conquer a lot of different land, right? So we see now on the map on the screen, that is the Mongolia current day. So in 2021, that is the size of Mongolia. But back then, because there were tribes, they didn't really have defined borders. So you didn't really know where Mongolia is. You only can roughly guess. And throughout the decades, Mongolia could be larger and smaller. And we'll see later on how large Mongolia expanded. And I can tell you right now, they were much bigger than what they are right now. All right. We talked so much about how great the Mongols are. They had a great leader, Genghis Khan, who was really great at conquering different things, and they were also these really small tribes in in East Asia. And there were also, and I've probably forgot to mention, but they are one of the most successful conquerors in history. So why are they so successful? Why isn't it somebody else? Why isn't somebody in the current days where technology is so advanced and we have guns, when back then they only had bows and arrows and also spears? So what is special about Mongolians and Genghis Khan? Well, there is something really special right now, currently, that we call the that what I like to call the Mongolian exception. And if any of you guys are fans of Crash Course World History, you would know that that show really likes to talk about Mongolians and how they were the exception to all the rules. So let me list off some of the exceptions that, or some of the exceptions that Mongolia has. First of all, they were, as I said, they were nomadic, but they built large cities. That is really weird, right? When you're nomadic, that means that you're moving around a lot because you have to find places where there's grass for your livestock, so your cows, your sheep, to feed off. So how does a tribe or a country that have people that always move around establish large countries? Well, that is a really good question, because Mongolia or Mongolians were the only people that were powerful enough to establish so many large cities that they can still be nomadic and still be able to reach all of these cities. So yeah, they are the only empire in the world that can be nomadic and also build super large cities. And another rule that they kind of just break is that most major empires are agricultural. Would anybody like to tell me what agricultural means? Ah, yes, Harvey. You seem really excited.
Agricultural means like they eat more crops than meat, or they only eat crops.
Yes, that's really close to what agricultural means. So, as Harvey said, agriculture is when you farm and you grow crops. And if you're an agricultural company, if you're an agriculture empire, you farm these crops more than what you need and you sell them or trade them to other empires and other countries for other goods like silk, iron, other precious metals, and things like that. But Mongols are the only large empire that didn't rely on agriculture to expand themselves, where almost all other empires did. So another exception for the Mongols, the rule doesn't apply to them. And the next rule I really want to talk about is about them conquering certain places. Russia and Afghanistan. Does anybody know what's special about Russia? Does anybody know what happened to Napoleon when they conquered Russia, and what happened to Hitler when he tried to conquer Russia? Yes, Harvey?
They got killed?
Close, yes. So all of the greatest fighters that we know right now, we got Napoleon, we got who was a really great leader, and we got somebody that had a really powerful army behind him, Hitler in World War II. Both of them tried to conquer Russia. But both of them failed really badly. And because of them trying to conquer Russia, both of them ended up being defeated. So why is it so hard to conquer Russia? Well, because of two things. First of all, Russia is a really vast country. It is really big. So it's really hard to conquer because the enemy, when you're trying to conquer Russia, can always just retreat back to another location. It'll be so much harder to keep controlling these different places. Second of all, Russia is really cold. It is in the north, so it's cold almost the whole year. And if you start to siege Russia, you can never finish conquering Russia within a year. So of course, you'll definitely meet a time in winter where none of the crops grow, when it's always negative degrees and all of your troops are freezing to death. That's why nobody was able to conquer Russia. But again, we have the Mongolian exception, where the Mongols were one of the first empires to be able to take over Russia and conquer them. And last point about on the Mongolian exception is their army. We all know that when you conquer a different country, you can either take them, you can kill them, or you can take them in as slaves and force them to work for you. One of the things that Kangaskhan did that no other emperors and empires can was to force slaves and other enemies to fight for you. That is really special because you're always afraid that the other people are never loyal to you because you just massacred their family to force them to join your army. But that should usually not work. But it's the Mongolian exception again. Genghis Khan was able to make that work. So those are some examples on the Mongolian exception. And you can see that the Mongols, under the rule of Genghis Khan, was a really special empire. They defied all of the rules that were built from the empires before them and after them. So why were the Mongols so much more successful than any other empire in the world? Well, there are 5 big points that historians and researchers have pointed out that led to the strength of the Mongol and the Mongolian exception. The first point within this is leadership based on merit. So what was leadership based on merit? Well, can anybody tell me what merit is first? What does anybody know what merit means? Yes, Harvey?
Did you? I saw you said what was leadership.
Oh no. So my question is, what is merit? Would anybody know what that word means?
I don't know.
Nope. All right. So what is merit? Well, merit just means that it is based on your whatever you do. So it's not based on how you're born, who your family are, but it is merit means that it's your hard work. How hardworking are you? So in the Mongolian Empire, all of work and all of the leadership and rankings, so how powerful you are and how much power you have, is based off merit. So how hard you work and how good you are at conquering. And in Genghis Khan's empire, there was no royalty. So there was nobody that could just sit around, do nothing, and still have a lot of power. He hated royalty. He thinks that everybody should work for the power they have. So the harder you work, the higher rank you are. And this made everybody really motivated because they know that no matter how they are born and who they are, they can always achieve more power if they work hard enough. This also meant that because everybody was so hardworking and because Genghis Khan hated royalty, he had one of the least corrupt government at the time. His government was all full of people that are hardworking and loyal to him, and none of them were corrupt because of this merit system. At that time, this merit system also had a name. It's called the Yasa Code, which is a Mongolian code saying that the harder you work, the more you can achieve. All right, that is the first point on why Mongols are so successful. The second the second point is a bit gruesome, but it's tactics. It's the tactics of Genghis Khan on how he conquered it. And most importantly, the torture. So Genghis Khan was very famous for being really, really nice to his enemies. So he wouldn't always massacre all of the enemies and would usually give the enemies a chance to surrender. Why is surrendering so important to Genghis Khan? Well, he knows that if the enemy surrender, he does not have to kill everybody within the other empires. This means that he can save some of his troops and prevent some of his troops to die or get injured. And also, his tactic of torture was really important when he was trying to siege or conquer other countries, because by torturing the troops from enemy empires, he was able to get a lot of information before he laid siege, so that he can minimize the loss in troops and make sure that he was always very knowledgeable and had more manpower than the other empires, so that he can always overpower them. The third point within why Mongols were so successful is religious freedom. He was one of the first and only empire at the time who granted religious freedom to people. And you may ask, why is religious freedom so important to the success of conquering? Well, because he was such a large empire, religion was really diverse within his empire. Because of the size of his empire, a lot of people believed in different things. So some of them could be Muslim, some of them could be Catholic, Christian, and even some of them Buddhist. So that was really hard to control if you only wanted one religion. But by allowing everybody in his country or his empire to have religious freedom, he was able to control civil unrest or people trying to protest against certain religions. Because there was this religious freedom, everybody was free to believe in what they want, as long as they're loyal to Genghis Khan. All right. The fourth point in why the Mongols are so successful is because he was one of the first empires to also establish safe trade routes. Yes, Harvey, you have a question about this?
Does it have to do anything with the Silk Road?
Yes, kind of. Great question. So, trade, as Harvey said, has a lot to do. One of the most famous trade routes is the Silk Road, but it's not just limited to that, of course, because Mongolia expanded so large that they covered so much land that they were part of the Silk Road. And that is also why it is really special about Mongolia. They allowed, no matter where you are as a trader, even though you're from the enemy empires and the enemies, you're able to have safe trade routes. So you're always protected if you're trading or you're traveling within the Mongolian Empire. And this made trade really abundant because everybody wanted to trade with Mongolia now, because they know that they will always be safe and that their trades will always be safe if they trade within or pass through Mongolia. So this brought a lot of wealth and a lot of money into his empire, which made him richer, which means he could buy more things and be even more powerful. All right. Those are the 4 points on why Mongols are so successful. And let's talk about the last point. Oh, yes, Harvey, you have another question before we continue?
No, can we watch a video?
You would like to watch a video? Yes, let's finish all of this information before we watch a video, because these are the information that you will not be able to obtain from a video. It is a kind of dry, but these are really important information. And try to remember all of this, because we're going to have a Kahoot later and you'll be tested on all of this. All right, let's move on to the last point on why the Mongols were so successful. Oh, sorry. Is that Jimmy or is that Kai that have a question?
Can you flip back to the beginning? Because I want to say something from the beginning.
Sure. Which page would you like me to go to?
The
I'll clear
first,
this out.
the first one.
This one or this one?
This one.
All right.
How did they make that statue out of?
Great question. So these statues are all made out of stone, most likely marble. I am not really sure what exactly this statue is made out of, but usually large statues like this one are made out of stone, and or in this case, even some type of metals to have the texture of that clothes. But most part of this statue will be made out of stone and metal, like steel and things like that. And especially his spear, if you can see it here, that golden thing is most likely made out of some type of metal. And this is a really, really large statue. So yeah. All right. Let's go back to where we were. We were, yes, of course. So we were talking about the Mongolian exception and why the Mongols were so successful. And let's end it off with the last point. The Mongols were really successful because Genghis Khan was really paid attention to one thing: women's rights. You might hear from your teachers at school about in social studies that in the past women or females didn't really have a lot of rights because they were seen as inferior to men or males. But in the Mongolian culture, females actually had more of more equality uh, compared to men as compared to any other empire in the world. So at that time, Genghis Khan had the most equal empire in terms of female and male in his time. And this really helped him to discover new ways to conquer because one of his most powerful and most trusted advisor when he was conquering land was actually his wife, which is a female. So yeah, because he respected female more than the other empires, he was able to cultivate more talents into his empire and into his army. All right, I know that was a really long talk about Mongolian exception and the success of Mongols. So does anybody have any questions after that? Nope. All right, let's move on. So we talked about how Mongols were really successful at conquering things. So why don't we dig straight into one of the specific conquerors that made Mongolian and Genghis Khan famous? And this would be his most successful conquest, which was the invasion and the conquest of China by Genghis Khan. Does anybody know about this? Or has anybody heard about this? Maybe from their parents telling them, or maybe even from school? Nope. This is all brand new to you guys? That's even better. You'll be hearing this for the first time. All right. So let's start from the very beginning. The invasion of China. China is a very vast place. So how did Genghis Khan do it? How did he conquer such a vast and powerful country back then? Well, it all started in 1205 when he started the invasion of a place called Xixia, which is a northern state in China. This state was very crucial because it marked the start of the attack on China. And after 4 years, in 1209, he successfully conquered Xixia. Oops, I missed a word. And that gave him some strength because okay, I am able to take over some parts of this really powerful country. So he kept going because he thought, I want to be one of the if I want to be one of the most powerful countries and empires in the world, I must defeat China. So in 1215, he took over Beijing. One of the most important cities and states in China back then. And this taking over of Beijing officially started the 60-year conquest that was him and his son when he took over the entirety of China. And because you're conquering somewhere, so you have to kick another person out. And the empire and the leader of China back then was part of the Song dynasty. And he kicked everybody that's part of the Song dynasty out, and he created his own dynasty called the Yuan dynasty. So I make an arrow so people know, so you guys know how it progressed. And Yuan dynasty was the first dynasty in China that was ruled by a non-ethnic Han Chinese. So, all right, Harps, we can stop a bit there, and I can answer Harvey's question.
Is this how many years away from this is from the Shang dynasty?
This is actually really far away from the Shang dynasty, because do you guys know the different all of the different dynasties in China? Does anybody know?
I know there's a lot.
Yes, of course. So what are the dynasties of China? Well, we start with the Xia dynasty. Then we have your Shang dynasty. And then we have the Qin dynasty, which was the first dynasty where they united China. Sorry. We have the Xia, and we have the Xia, and then we have the Shang dynasty, and then we have the Zhou dynasty, ZHOU dynasty, and then we have the Qin dynasty. And then even after that, then we have the Tang dynasty.
Hi.
And I'm skipping a bit in the middle of that. And after the Tang dynasty, and then we have the Song dynasty. So I would say roughly around, I am not really sure about this, but there's around 750 years between the Song dynasty and the Shang dynasty that you're mentioning. All right, does that answer your question, or would you have something else, Harvey?
Who even made up all those names? If there were so many names, if there were so many dynasties, then how would they make up a name? And how would they know if they didn't use like a dynasty name like way before?
Yeah, great question. So even though it seems like there's a lot of dynasties, to be honest, there's not really much. At most, counting all of the dynasties that only lived for a few years, in the China's entire 4,000-year history, there's only roughly around 50 to 60 dynasties that ever existed. And that is already me overcompensating for some dynasties that we might not even know about in history. So think about it, 60 dynasties. I'm pretty sure you can name more than 60 different last names, right? And yeah, so this is how they got it. Most of these dynasties are named after their emperor. So whatever their emperor's last name was, that was the name of the dynasty. But that was the exception for Kangaskhan, because we know his name was Temujin. He didn't have a Chinese name. So where do you get a last name? Well, he just took a random name and called it the Yuan dynasty. But why did he call it the Yuan dynasty? Well, this was because of one thing. He really respected Chinese culture. He believed that the Chinese culture is respected and that the people in Mongolia should even learn Chinese, their culture and their language. That's why he chose to keep a dynasty name, the Yuan dynasty. So even though the dynasty wasn't named after him, he actually ruled during that dynasty. And all right, we were talking about how he was the first ever non-ethnic Han Chinese to rule in China. Does anybody know what ethnic Han means? Nope. First time hearing about this? All right. So what is ethnicity? Can anybody tell me that? Ethnicity. You can just shout it out if you think you have an answer. Nope. All right. So ethnicity just means where you're from or what type of culture you're from. So this is a really important information. Hint, hint. There is a total of 56 different ethnic groups in China. So 56 different cultures in China. And the largest ethnic group in China is called the Han Chinese or Hanzu. And that accounted for around 90% of the population of China. So there is one majority ethnic group, which is Han, and we have 55 different minority groups. So in total, we have 56 different ethnic groups in China. So yeah, for all of the around 2,500 to 3,000 years before Genghis Khan's dynasty, all of those dynasties were ruled over by an ethnic Han Chinese. And he was the first non-ethnic Han and even non-Chinese to rule over China. And another thing about him is, as I said, he really respected the Chinese culture. Not only did he not kill off the Chinese language and the Chinese culture, he actually adapted to China. He also really liked the Chinese people. So unlike other countries that conquered China, like the Japan during World War II, he didn't massacre anybody. He treated the people that was loyal to him really respectfully. And so there wasn't a really big massacre in China. And his conquest in China lasted for 3 generations. So the Yuan dynasty lasted around 150 years from him to his son to his grandson. But unfortunately, during his rule of the rule of his grandson, he was defeated by the Ming dynasty. And the emperor that led the Ming dynasty was called, I'll write it up here, Zhu Yuanzhang. Zhu Yuanzhang marked the end of the Yuan dynasty, and the rule went back into the hands of another ethnic Han Chinese, and that marked the start of the Ming dynasty. All right, Harvey, I've seen you raised your hand for a while, so go ahead. What's your question?
Why does his name start with pig?
Yes, great question. So that is his last name, and although the last name sounds like pig, it is actually spelled different in Chinese. Would you know the spelling for Zhu in Chinese? Would you like to write it out or no? Yeah, so this Zhu is different from the Zhu that we know. So I'll write it out for you. So this Zhu looks like this, right? But the one for pig, as you were talking about, actually writes like this. Do you see a difference? Although they sound similar in Chinese, they're actually 2 different words. All right. Any questions about this? Nope. And also answering Camille's question from before, how large the Genghis Khan's empire was, you can see on the map. They conquered all the way into Europe, into East Europe, and conquered a large part of land. You can see his final empire was larger than Africa, and was even the country that he created was larger than Africa. It was larger than North America, and it was almost as big as South America. It was exceptionally huge. He almost conquered he conquered more than one entire continent. So you have to think how successful he was. But unfortunately, as I said, his grandson got defeated in the Ming dynasty by Zhu Yuanzhang, and he was forced to leave China because he got defeated. And what happened is that after he went, because of this defeat, many people didn't really listen to him anymore. So he lost Genghis Khan's grandson lost a lot of power during his ruling, and he was forced to split the Mongolian Empire into different states controlled by other people. So he lost his absolute power to control the entire Mongolian Empire. All right. Any questions about that? Nope. All right. Perfect. So we're going to, that is all of the information on Kangaskhan right now. So let's dive into more of a question and more of a discussion for you guys. What the question is, was Kangaskhan a climate change warrior? Or what we So let me give you some facts and details about Kangaskhan's conquering overall. Over the period of his conquest, he killed almost 40 million people, which was around 10% of the world population back then. So that is the if Genghis Khan was trying to conquer the world right now, he would have killed almost 1 billion people. 1 billion people. That number is really crazy. Because he reduced the world population by almost 10%, some scientists say that this actually delayed the effects of climate change because, as we know, less people equals less climate change and less heat produced. And also because of his conquest, almost 700 million tons of carbon emissions, or if you guys might know, CO2, so carbon dioxide, carbon emission, which is really bad for the ozone layer or the layer that protects Earth, was actually removed from the air and dropped back into the soil because of his large-scale conquering. That some parts are actually more peaceful because no people are actually on those lands. So because he removed 10% of the world population and was able to re-put 700 million tons of carbon emission, which is almost 1 year of carbon emissions nowadays, back into the soil, some people think that he might have stopped or actually delayed climate change. So do you guys think that is true? Does it seem true with all of those facts? Maybe, right? Yeah, it's really great to question it. Even though there seems like a lot of facts that back up that Genghis Khan is actually a climate warrior, he probably isn't, because as we know, 10% of the population can grow back pretty much instantly. And that 700 million tons of carbon emission was only an estimate. So not anybody really knows the actual number of it. And because he did a lot of bad things too, like burning different buildings, killing a lot of people, we really don't know if he was a climate change warrior. So most scientists agree he was not. So yeah, that was just a really interesting question I wanted to ask you guys, so you guys can actually think a bit about, should I actually listen to all of the data, all of the things I see on the internet, or should I actually kind of question it and see if there's any arguments that are against this? Does anybody have any questions about all of this?
I don't think so. No, I don't have a question.
Yeah. Great job, Lydia.
4 million people, so like.
Yeah, he killed a lot of people, 40 million.
Well, if he was still here, he would have killed us.
Yes, he would have killed around 1 billion people if he was alive nowadays. Because he killed 10% of the world population.
10%, but women laid more babies, so then there was more of us.
Yes, of course. So he wasn't really a climate change warrior at the end of this. All right, to end this off, I know that's a lot of information I just given you guys. So let's end all of this off with a Kahoot about what we learned today. Does that sound good?
Yeah, I think so.
All right. Yes, Camille, you have a question?
How are we gonna get on the Kahoot? Because my iPad doesn't have the app.
Oh, so you can just go to kahoot.it www.kahoot.it. And then you can log on to Kahoot through the website. Yes?
I only have my brother's account.
That's fine. You can use any account.
Yeah, but what do I do? What do I?
Sorry?
Is there a class code or something?
Yes, give me a second. I will be sharing my screen and you can be able to get the code.
Okay. I'm gonna write it down.
It will be on the screen all the time, so you guys don't have to write it down. You guys can just see it on this. Yep.
7173257. Okay, this is easy. Now I'm gonna go to my brother's account now.
All right. So if anybody would like to, you guys can join the Kahoot, which is just a small trivia to go through whatever you learned today. And can I ask everybody to put their names in so I can know who is who?
Teacher, I think my brother deleted Kahoot. I don't know
Oh,
how to
you can-
change my
yeah.
name.
Yeah, that's fine. Who are you?
Hello.
Okay, I can remove you and you can come back in with your name. So if you deleted Kahoot on the app, you can just go to the website www.kahoot.it and you can join this Kahoot.
Teacher,
Yes?
where do we do a pin? Oh, I
Sorry?
found it. I found it. No thing.
Yeah. Perfect.
What's with? Oh, yo.
So I'll give you guys 2 to 3 more minutes to join because I know some of you guys might have to write it down and open the app.
How do you join?
Yeah, so you go to www.kahoot.it and it will tell you to enter a game pin. And this is the game pin that you have to enter.
Okay.
I will also type this game pin into the Zoom chat if anybody would need it.
Okay.
Can we finish off with a video?
Sorry?
Can we finish off with a video?
Sure, if we have time after this. Is everybody in? Or should I give you guys 1 or 2 more minutes before you guys join?
How do you join Kahoot?
Yeah, so if you can go to your Google or any of the website, go to www.kahoot.it. And it will ask you to enter a game pin. And you have to enter the game pin 7173257. And you can join the Kahoot. All right, I see people are coming in. So Harvey, do you need some more time? Yep. All right. So I'll give you some more time before you join. Sorry, everybody, but I'm trying to include everybody here. So thank you guys for waiting. All right, I see Harvey in here, and if can I get a thumbs up if you're in, so I can see if we can start this. All right. Yep, everybody's in here. Perfect. I'll start it off. So I think both of you guys know how Kahoot works. A question will pop on the screen, and you have a limited amount of time to answer the question, and the fastest person wins. And of course, you have to get the right answer. All right, let me start this.
Wait.
Oh, sorry. Harvey?
Now it's
Go ahead. You're mute.
not good. You're mute.
Okay, perfect. So I'll start it off.
It's loading.
So where was Kangaskhan from?
What is the
Mongolia.
no, why does it pop up a bunch of triangles and rectangles and those shapes?
So you match the shape with the one on your phone or iPad. So see, China is the triangle, and the Mongolia is just circle. So yeah, great job everybody. That is kind of funny that two people answered Canada, but the correct answer is Mongolia. As I said, Genghis Khan was Mongolian,
I don't.
and he was part of Mongolia. So
How do you know?
I'm-
I can't. It's really confusing. I don't know which is which because it's in like a random place. You just press.
There's only shape. There's no something name for.
Then
yeah,
how do I
so
know?
on the iPad there's shapes, but if you look, do you see my screen? Each shape has an answer linked to it.
We don't see those. We can only see shape.
Do you see my screen? I'm sharing my
Yeah.
screen right now.
你看着他的字，然后上好了再讲这。
So but beside all of the answers, there's a shape, and that shape links to the answer on your iPad or your phone.
Okay.
You got that?
你得把它拿开，看不见。How do you know what's the answer?
Okay.
Sorry. How do you know the answer? Well, all of these questions have answers from my presentation before. So all of
And
these
like
questions.
on our screen, there's only the shape. There's nothing beside the shape. So I have to see from your screen?
Yes, so you have to see on my screen it will show up which the answer and the shape that matches that answer, and you have to press that shape on your screen. So you have to see both my screen and the Kahoot screen.
Yeah, sorry, I have to rearrange the laptop thing.
I
Yeah,
know
no
how
problem.
to do
The
it.
laptop is really
I know
small.
how to do it if you're on an iPad. You just like, where there's that little bar thing and it shows you all the apps on the bottom.
I can do 1/2 and 1/2. Here we go.
Yeah, that would be great if you can do 1/2 and 1/2. Sorry everybody, this is taking a while because of some technical difficulties. Not everybody here knows how to use Kahoot, so I do apologize for that. All right, Harvey, just give me a thumbs up if you're ready, and we can move on to the next question.
I'm ready.
All right, perfect. All right, Camille in the lead right now. So let's go on to the next question. What was Genghis Khan's birth name? Birth name. You have to remember birth name.
Yay.
Perfect. Everybody got that correct. It is Temujin, as we said, means of iron in Mongolian. All right, we move on to the next question. So around what time did he unify Mongolia? And only one of this should make sense. So we talked about how he lived around the 13th to the 12th century. So when did he unify Mongolia? Can it be 10 years ago, Yep, that's correct. So he unified Mongolia in 1206 AD. So of course it can't be 206 BC because that would be over 2,000, 3,000 years ago. So that wouldn't work. 2006, do you think that would work? I don't think so. That was 14 years ago, and I don't think I remember living through the Kangaskhan unification. All right, we go on to the next question. Okay, Audrey's in the lead right now, followed by Camille. We keep going. Where are the Mongols located? That's correct.
No, why is there a time limit?
Yes, so because depending on how fast you answer it, that's how many points you get. I limited it to 20 seconds for each question. So yeah, everybody's correct, or most people here are correct that the Mongols are located in East Asia, right above China. Okay, we can keep going. So what were the Mongols most successful at? Remember, they like to fight a lot. Perfect. Great job, everybody. That's correct. The Mongols were the most successful at conquering other lands. Scoreboard hasn't changed yet. We keep going. I talked about the ethnic groups and how he was the first non-ethnic Khan to rule China. So how many total ethnic groups did I say were in China? Oh, wow. Yeah. So I know that was a really small detail, but great job for those who paid attention. There's 56 total ethnic groups in China, 55 minority, and one majority group called the Han Chinese. All right, we have some changes on the scoreboard with Anton in the lead. And remember how I talked about this? Was the Mongolian Empire corrupt? I talked about how they really liked merit and how they didn't like royalty. So this might be a harder question because this was at the start of my class, but let's see if you guys remember. Most of you guys are correct. Great job. So the Mongolian Empire was not corrupt. Was the phrase "the Mongolian Empire was corrupt" is false. So that was false. That's not true. The Mongolian Empire was one of the least corrupt countries in the world back then. Okay, we have a bit of a change in the scoreboard. All right, what was the country that he took in over? Was it Canada, Britain, China, or India? Great, everybody got that. I talked a lot about China, so good job, you guys all remembered. All right, we have the penultimate question, or the second last question. We talked about, again, the ethnic groups in China. What is the largest ethnic group in China? That's correct. It's the Han Chinese. Good job, everybody. All right. The last question. So whoever presses this fastest has the highest score. So they might be able to take over Anton for the top spot. The last question on the quiz is, what dynasty did he start? And this dynasty refers to the dynasty in China. Just for some clarification. Good job, everybody. So yeah, everybody got that correct. He started the Yuan dynasty. And let me iterate. His last name was not Yuan. He didn't have any connection with the name Yuan, but it was just a name he picked for his dynasty to respect the Chinese culture. All right, let's see who won. Camille in 3rd place. Good job. Kai and Jimmy in 2nd place. And Captain Trashcan, which I'm assuming is Anton, gets the 1st place. Good job, everybody. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed this small Kahoot. All right. So unfortunately, Kai and Jimmy said they wanted to watch a video, but unfortunately, we do not have that much time to watch a video because we're already a bit over time. So instead, I have a video that I wanted you guys to watch, and I'll be posting this into the link of our Zoom meeting. And you guys can, if you guys would like to learn more or review what we learned today, you guys can go to this link and watch the video to learn more.
Okay, I'm gonna watch it right now.
Okay. And also, if you guys want to go even more in depth about more specific details about the Mongolian Empire, you can go to Crash Course World History and search for Mongols or Mongolian. All right. To finish it off, does anybody have any questions? Nope. Everybody great with what they learned today? No questions? All right. That's the. Oh, sorry, Harvey.
What are you gonna do for the answer about the letter that I sent you?
Sorry.
The letter that I sent you, is it a yes or no?
Sorry, the letter that you sent me. Is it a yes or no?
Yes.
I'm not sure right now, so I have to get back.
But how are you gonna make another server?
You would like me to make another server?
Yeah, I don't want to go. I want just make sure you can turn from creative to survival.
All right, so I can make a server and I'll make sure that you guys can play creative on that. All right, so I guess that's a yes on my side, and yeah.
Oh, and cheats? Can you allow cheats?
Sure. I can see that happen, and yeah.
Like all of the cheats.
Sorry.
Like all of the cheats.
Minecraft. So I have a permanent Minecraft server. Unfortunately, it's not on right now because I had to turn it off for some maintenance or some fixing. But yeah, it will be on later on.
It will be on today.
And I can, if you guys, if anybody, I'll try to get it on tomorrow or tonight. But if you guys have any interest, I can send you guys the IP address into the WeChat group, or if you would like, you can message me personally at my WeChat, or email me if you would like. Yes.
What is your name in Minecraft?
My name is Commando Trashcan.
What?
Yeah. It's a name
I keep getting